I told you about being crazy and emotional. Just like the waterworks turned on, I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I can get around Back in Black on the guitar.
It's simple. I have a case. It's filled with hundreds of postcards. On the back of each postcard, I've written topics. We pull these cards at random, and then we talk. Somehow you defied the odds and became a professional bass player.
Bluegrass bass player.
Bluegrass bass player. There's like 6 of you in the world. Mm-hmm. But before you were a professional bluegrass bass player, what was the worst job you ever had?
Oh, assembly line, working just outside of Boulder. I've had other sort of jobs like that where it's kind of nice because I can tune out and just go into my head and write music. Some of my best tunes were written on an assembly line, just like the machines over here and it making a noise, and you can sort of sing along to it because it's humming at a certain key.
What song was written on the assembly line?
40 Miles from Denver was written on one of those jobs. I worked at Celestial Seasonings Tea Company, which is just outside of Boulder, and there was a lot of assembly line stuff there, but then I don't know if it was an upgrade so much as just I didn't want to sit there anymore, so they let me power wash the big, huge plastic vats.
That'd be fun.
It was.
Yeah.
And with all the tea and spices and stuff coming in. And so I got to be outside and didn't have no boss. And just power washing this stuff with a hotsie that just sort of went, that was the thing. It just sounded like that. And so I would sing off of that as my root note.
What was the last job you had, though, before you said, this is it, I can be a bluegrass bass player full time?
The last thing I did was be a bum student. I was in college in Boulder. I did 6.5 years of college.
As we all do.
Yeah, and I still didn't graduate, but 2 years in New York City and then 4.5 years in Boulder.
When you were in New York, you were in film school, weren't you?
Uh-huh.
Who are your guys? Who do you like in films?
Who do I like in films? I mean, my all-time favorite is Tarantino.
Yeah.
When I was in film school in New York, I went to NYU, and the big alum of the day was Spike Lee.
Right.
So everybody was every class was just people talking about how awesome he is.
Did you want to direct? Did you want to write? Or did you want to get...
What did I think I wanted to do?
Yeah.
I mean, I showed up at film school in New York going, I want to make movies, And then I looked around at all of these other kids, and I'm like, oh my God, they are way more into film than I am. And then it was a slow dawning that these people are into film like I'm into music.
Right.
And so then I sort of changed gears and went into animation and music for film. We only ever really did one proper music video for a couple albums ago. And I advocated for myself to make the treatment for it, and I didn't want to direct it, but
storyboard it.
Absolutely, all of that stuff. And I had a great idea for like the video. And I don't know why we just farmed it out to someone else. And the video's fine.
What song was it for?
It was called Classic Situation.
Okay, yeah.
And it's literally the only proper music video, and it's cool.
Right.
It's weird, but I swear I wish that we had done my.
What was your concept?
Well, my concept was Classic Situation. The way the song goes, I always pictured it like just a situation, but it keeps repeating. So I had a boyfriend and a girlfriend dynamic, and they fight as the video begins, and he leaves, and she is obviously like so sick of his shit. And so she just goes on a rampage in the first minute and a half of busting up the apartment, smashing the dishes and flipping the shit over and just like done with him. And it's a cathartic moment. And then looks around and goes, well, shit, this is a mess. And calls up all her friends, and they all come over and they put everything back together, and it's just, it's all fixed up again, and they all leave, and the guy comes home and he's really like apologetic for being such a bummer. And you wouldn't know it from the apartment.
Right.
That everything's put back together. But the idea of the song being this repeat of this thing that happens all the time, and so I sort of had this idea of that.
Oh, this will be interesting here. The card is Astrology. So do you pay attention to this stuff? What do you make of it?
don't pay attention to it so much, but I have had my chart done a bunch of times. And
What'd you learn?
I know about grand trines now, and in a nutshell, I was born on the 22nd of June, and the 21st of June is Gemini, and 22nd is Cancer, I think. So I'm what they call a Gemini-Cancer cusp.
Right.
Which, and because of the sort of commonalities or archetypes that have been ascribed to these signs, Cancers are very emotional people, which I freely admit to being, and Gemini, the twins, I've always found they're a little bit crazy. So I'm sort of like a bipolar emotional,
So you're saying you're
character.
crazy and emotional.
Yeah.
That's a great combination.
Yeah, I'll often find myself, I'll talk to myself a lot out loud when I'm home alone. And I've only started to get concerned when I started answering myself, but in a different accent.
What kind of accent?
A Scottish accent.
Oh, Ben, you're doing great.
So what should we have for dinner tonight? I ain't fucking know, man. Whatever you want to cook. Well, I'm not cooking for you. Well, I'm not cooking.
Let's talk about your home life here for a second. Where's your spot in your house? Where do you go to just have total peace? What's your spot?
There's the couch in the living room. Like, I've got a music room that's upstairs. The piano's up there, and all the instruments are up there. But I end up just bringing everything that I want downstairs,
right,
minus the piano, and sit around on the couch and play. Sometimes I'll go outside. There's running water on two sides of the property, and I really like this sort of sound of running water. I've had a lot of good ideas come from just sort of being quiet and listening to water move. First thing I do when I wake up, coffee.
Yeah.
First thing I do is check my horoscope. Let's bring it back full
circle. Do you really?
No, but let's pretend I do.
Okay.
And then it usually says, "Get yourself a fucking cup of coffee now," and then a little splash of half and half, an ice cube.
An ice cube.
Yeah, because I want to drink it without it. I want to be able to drink it right away without it being scalding. And
right.
And we have a thing on the bus that just makes scalding coffee. Jake will always find the local coffee shop to go, and he is the coffee freak.
Does he put the man bun on and get behind the counter and make it?
I'll tell a little secret. That's just a wig. He's totally bald, just like me. But he just plops it on, and good to know. You'd never know if I didn't tell you. For me, I'm gone half the year. That's kind of like a bummer sometimes. But then again, when I'm home for a month. Like, I literally am home and don't have to do anything else but hang out with him.
Are you able to switch off the road as soon as you step through the doors of your house?
It takes me a day. But he will often say, as I'm getting ready to leave, like, "Hey, Ben." He still calls me Ben.
He calls you Ben?
Yeah. He hasn't put any stink on it yet, so it's okay.
Right.
"Hey, Ben, how about you don't go on tour this time?" I'm like, "Oh, buddy, well, yeah, I get it, and I miss you, but I go on tour, I play music. I like playing music. You like music, so it's good, Yeah, okay. How about I come with you on tour?" I'm like, "Well, you keep practicing, and someday you will come on tour with us."
Does he have musical talents?
Totally.
Yeah?
Totally.
What does he play?
He plays I leave the violin, he calls it a via-in.
A via-in?
Yeah. I leave the fiddle out for him, so he plays that. Just plucking.
Does he seem to understand rhythm and
Totally.
all that?
Yeah, he's got better rhythm than I do.
Like the things that are sort of, either in you or not in you.
Yeah, this was the best thing that's happened to me in my life. I'll share this story. We were sitting, he had some sort of kids event, and I want to say at a library, which is weird because he
still
ended
make
up.
Those?
They do,
Yeah.
But they were playing drums at the library, right? So all the kids got a drum to play, and he came back home and he said, "Well, I was playing drums, Ben." I'm like, "Awesome drums! Like, did you like it?" "Oh yeah." I'm like, there's things called a drum kit, and it was air drumming, and he got really into it. And I said, "Oh well, shoot, let me play you like a great drum solo." So I played him John Bonham's, like Moby Dick, the big drum solo from Moby Dick. And it's going off and going crazy, and he was into it, but I could tell he couldn't see what was going on. So then I played a video of John Bonham doing the drum solo. And he started to get into it. And then on the sidebar, the suggestions from YouTube are kids his age playing a drum kit. And that was the thing. And he just took that phone and was watching. And some of these kids are dynamite. Right? So he's watching this, and he starts air drumming, and he's, Ben, can we get one of these, but one of these with the pedals where I can stomp with my feet too?
You're going shit.
You know, I said we have to ask Mom.
Right.
But yes, we can. And I said, we don't have one right now, but I'll tell you what we do have is all of these boxes, empty boxes from Christmas, and old buckets that my wife is a beekeeper, so that honey used to be in. And so we got all these buckets and pots and pans and drumsticks. So I set up this boxes and make cool sounds, and the buckets make cool sounds, and he was just like jamming, and he had rhythm, man. I mean, he was in time. And then he said he wanted to jam to music. So I said, okay, beginning drums, but something with a killer beat that like you can't help but drum with, AC/DC. So I put on Back in Black, and he jammed to Back in Black through the stereo, right? Totally. For like 5 or 6 times through the whole song. And then he says, Ben, can you turn that music off, and can you go get your guitar, and I quote, and can we jam? That's what he said to me.
Did you shed a single tear?
I told you about being crazy and emotional. Just like the waterworks turned on. I'm like, oh my God, this is the best thing that's ever happened to me. And I can get around Back in Black on the guitar. Right? So I got the acoustic out and like tune it up and sort of play through it for a second, realize, like, remember how it goes. And then I told him, I'm like, all right, kid, we're going to play together. But if you remember from jamming, it starts with 8 clicks on those drumsticks. And then we're in. So give me 8. To 8 of them, and then we're in. And we start playing Back in Black. We played it 4 times together. And it was the best music I've ever made in my life.
And did you see something kind of spark in him in that moment where he's like, oh, I'm in. This is it.
He made up his own drumming face.
What's his drumming face?
It's like tough. And then you can't make eye contact with him, though, because he'll smile.
Right.
First thing he asked me is, Ben, can you show me all your friends? He wants to talk to everybody else but me first.
Yeah.
And then he says, can you show me all around the bus? So we do that. And then he wants to see inside the venues. So we do that. So it's like a little tour.
Yeah.
And I catch up, but he's 4, so it's sort of hard to get him to tell me all of what he did that day or whatnot.
Who does he like the most in the band?
Allie. This is on my arm. I look at it every day. Do I see it every day? Maybe, I don't know. I lived in Colorado for so long. In the beginning, every day I walked outside, I'm like, look at those mountains over there. That is so impressive. There is never gonna come a day when I take those for granted. And then you live there for 10 years, and a week goes by, and I didn't look at those mountains, or they were just there. So you gotta, like, appreciation for something. You gotta work on it and cultivate it all the time.
It's breathing in the literal sense, but it's breathing in the figurative sense of just taking in what's around you.
Yeah, and it also, for me, it means being centered in the moment.
Right.
Like really trying. The best music is made when you are utterly present.
Do you have a hard time being present?
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Not terribly. I can spin out pretty good. Like when I'm not being present, I'm, what does my therapist call it? Future tripping or past tripping. My head is way off in the future in some imaginary place where shit's going wrong, but nothing's bad's happened because here we are and everything's cool, but I'm just fucking panicking about something. Or I'm way hung up in the past and some shit that you can't change anyway. In the moments where I need this, then I can go, all right, where was I? I was in the future that doesn't exist, or I was stuck in a past trip that you can't change if you fucking wanted to. Come back. When it came to me, like this, it became very clear that I was going to get this tattooed on myself in this place. And right. I needed it to happen. It was like, it's something that I will use. I need this. I don't need a picture of a parrot.
Or, you've got Ben Roethlisberger on your lower back, right?
My lower back.
Right, yeah. Your Ben Roethlisberger tramp stamp?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a nice one.
Yeah, it's cool. Wife hates it, but, she's, whatever. I've only been naked around her once, so,